Physical Services, 106 Ninth Q in Johannesburg. My number is +27 82 456 9264. You shall surely be blessed. May God bless you, and I look forward to receiving you. Amen.
For God works all things for the good of them that love him, for the good of them who are called according to his purpose.
Our address, Physical Services, 106 Ninth Q in Johannesburg. My number is +27 82 456 9264. You shall surely be blessed. May God bless you, and I look forward to receiving you. Amen.
Praise the name of the Lord. You're welcome tonight. This is Abi Adenigba, and I want to welcome all of you tonight. First of all, let me start from, appreciating those who joined us during the Shekinah Institute Leadership and Ministerial Seminar, which took place last week. And I was so delighted to see some of you and those who also hooked up with us online. Thank you so much for being part of that program. It can only get better, and I pray that our future events, that you will be a part of it if you are not able to make that of last week. Otherwise, it was awesome. The feedback that I got was that the content was quite powerful, and our timing was not that bad, but we need more participants. I must be honest with you, but I pray that it can only get better. So for those of you who supported it, our sponsors, thank you so much for making that event a reality. Thank you so much. Now tonight I'm here to continue on the aspect of awareness of the dark side, which I began well over a month now, and then I concluded towards a discussion on how we can overcome our dark side. The dark side is often is the side of a personality that may not be positive. We have seen some dark side that people hide away. We have seen dark side that is of a strong-willed personality, which has worked well for some people. And at the same time, as much as this dark side worked well for some people, it also caused some disruptive atmosphere in an organization or in relationship or even in marriage. We've looked at the traits of a dark side which is not visible, which some individuals are not aware of. And we look at the traits of narcissism, we look at the traits of abrasive behavior, bullying, and seeking a sort of a sense of entitlement. So we look at this and certain behaviors that may not be in order in certain atmosphere. So dark side of a person is not what we want to let out, but if it goes on uncontrollable, we find that it destroys relationship, it destroys even what you are building. And that is where my discussion is based on that, on how do we become aware of this. So we have highlighted the traits, the consequences, and other areas, even other things that you may not pay attention to, such as, maybe your personal principle on pride and all that. Pride also can become your dark side, but the dark side also can also be traced to those things that we hide away, addictions, certain sin, immorality that cannot be known on the outside. You do not want your neighbor to know or your partners to know about it. Certain addiction to gambling is a dark side. That's where all your finances go into. So you hide it away until this starts to, create some indelible situations, destroying your finances, destroying your organizations. So we have looked at this various dark side of personality. Now, other studies have shown that those with a dark side seems to have a strong personality to drive organization, to drive business success. Yes, we're not denying that, neither am I arguing that, but I'm looking at where dark side is becoming disruptive, where dark side hinders a proper leadership transformation, and that is what I have looked at in my various other classes. Now today we continue on how do we overcome this dark side in order for us to sustain growth, in order for us to sustain our relationship and our organization. Now I want us to also look at a point tonight that the way you can overcome your dark side is for you to be open to a feedback. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. What is a feedback? A feedback is a sort of a report. A feedback can be what you actually ask for after a program, after an event, or an incident that may have happened in the organization or in the family, and you ask for a feedback after a findings. It may be a finding on a matter that involves even your decision, your action, and this feedback is coming back to you. And there you can see the consequences of your decision on that matter due to your approach, your insensitivity to others. A feedback also enables you to give a response to an outcome of such findings, and so you are able to give explanation, you are able to have a complete review of it. So that's what a feedback will do, and within the feedback you can be able to trace your faults, you can be able to trace certain behaviors that you subconsciously let out, and that's what feedback can do. So it takes a secure leader to be open to a feedback. For example, a narcissist does not respect opinions of others, or somebody who is a bully. They are unconscious when they step on other people's emotions. And so you have to understand that when you receive a feedback, when you are open to feedback, you are able to examine certain part of your behaviors. You are able to have a self evaluation through the feedback. So that's why I believe that feedback, it's important for you to be able to overcome your character or your attitude, which endangers your growth. So feedback is like you are looking into a mirror that does not lie about you. It gives you the cues. It gives you the cues on your character. That's what feedback will do. So you need feedback reports. And these you get from honest people who are working with you, who are in your committee, honest allies, those who have concern for the growth of whatever you are building, a vision, a church, a business, or a community group. So I'm saying tonight that the ability to receive feedback, what it will do for you is it will test your humility. Though it may bruise your ego, but at the same time, it increases your strength. It increases your strength because you are able to overcome your dark side. Those sides of you, your temperament, you're able to work on it where it has its effects. So if you really want to have a transformation of your character flaws and develop good interpersonal relationship, it is advisable in my discussion that you need to have a deliberate feedback, a deliberate discussion or a review of people that are within your organization, in order for you to have a cues on certain things that people may not ordinarily tell you, but you can draw from it. And that is why. Now, there are three factors to consider when you want to be opened to a feedback. One of those is what I want to discuss tonight, because what we are dealing with is overcoming dark side. A dark side is certain aspect of you that is disruptive, and we want to take that out. Certain part of you or myself that is disruptive in certain processes, and that is what we want to deal with. So you need to consider three factors, and which is what I want to discuss tonight. Now, number one is that I'm repeating this as this factor. Number one factor is, as a leader, you need to be vulnerable to be open to a feedback. You must be ready to be vulnerable, and this is objective vulnerability. You are able to reflect on certain situations that you will get the report from the feedback. So you must be vulnerable. You must be open to hear what you ordinarily not hear. That's what vulnerability is. You make yourself open to comments that may not ordinarily come to you, instead of those comments remaining on the gossip line, but you are getting it right from the discussion on a feedback or a review. And it will help you to know what your dark side is. It will also help you to critique and to identify the triggers of your dark side. For example, what stirs up your anger during an event, during a meeting? What stirs up your anger? And the repulsive language that you used during an event. I mean, you can only get such a feedback from when you allow it. It comes that you may review. So you must be vulnerable, and vulnerability also includes that in that feedback meeting, you need to also express your disappointment. You cannot overprotect your ego and not acknowledge when your expectations were not met. You need to be vulnerable, and that includes that you express your disappointment, express where you feel that things may have not gone well, or actually it fails. So that's what feedback we do in a feedback meeting. Your dislike in certain situation. And I want to let you know that when you express your disappointment, or when things did not go the way you have planned, it's not a sign of weakness. You are just being real and authentic. That is it. It's not a weakness. So feedback will help you to identify a whole lot of things. Number two factor that you must consider where you want to be opened to a feedback. Number two is that don't be defensive when you receive a feedback. Don't be defensive. Like I mentioned to you earlier, a feedback meeting is strategic. A feedback meeting is a systematic review of your kind of leadership, a systematic review of the people, knowing the people that are with you or working with you. So you mustn't be defensive. You mustn't manifest a defensive posture when you are receiving a feedback, because that may intimidate those who are actually giving you the report. So if you want to get some information from a feedback report or a feedback meeting, you mustn't be defensive, so that you can hear the real truth. Therefore, you have to be open-minded. You have to be open-minded to hear constructive criticism, constructive opinions, even if you have to explain certain things. And that is what it means. So when you are not too much defensive what will happen is that you will allow the flow of communication. There will be flow of communication, and through communication, you are able to pinpoint what may help you to change your attitude, what may help you to relate with people. It actually helps you on your relational strength, because we're talking about awareness of your dark side. So your relational strength may become increased when you get feedback, and this will help you with your relationship. Because if you are too defensive, you find out that you interrupt people, you interrupt somebody who is making an explanation, you interrupt somebody who is delivering the feedback, and this is not good. You may miss certain information that should have helped you. So feedback is very key to hear, and you can be able to overcome any area of your character that is your dark side that you mustn't be coming out. It's not good for the atmosphere where you are, or for the context of what you're doing, because it's been destructive. When you get a feedback and you are not defensive, you are able to identify some emotional damage that you may not be aware of, and that is also where you need to have a good listening capacity. That's why I said that you mustn't be defensive. You will develop a good listening capacity to get this feedback, and you are able to identify certain emotional situations, people that are hurt, and then you are able to deal with it. So because there are some narcissist individuals, personality, they do not tolerate mistakes, and you cannot be a leader without tolerating mistakes. So a feedback allows people to be free. You encourage discussion, a creative discussion. You encourage it with your leaders, with your workers. So it's because this feedback may not necessarily be on character or your decision. It may have to do with your organization policy or your church policy. How is it amenable? How good it is? How holistic is those policies? So it may not just be on your character that the feedback is focused on. A feedback may be on the whole atmosphere of the organization. A feedback may be something that has to deal with the consequences of the culture of the organization, because every organization has its culture. And how is this culture is? How is it? The culture, we have seen some culture of organization or that they don't care about customers, they don't care about the congregation, they only care about what the leader wants. And that kind of culture really is destructive. It does not sustain growth. Where the culture of organization is all about revenue, it's all about what the leader wants to achieve, that does not sustain growth. John Maxwell said that everything rises and falls on the leadership. So some followers, what happened in this instance of organization's culture is that some followers actually mirror what the leader does over time, because there is such a strong influence on the follower, and you find out that creates a kind of a culture of organization, and it can be very negative. So a strong character that is a dark side of a personality or a leader can be contagious. If it's narcissism, if it's bullying, if it's pride, it's perceived to be a winning wand for everyone in that organization. And you find out that from the top to the lower cadre, everybody has this culture that they even look down on other people who do not belong to them. And that is what I'm trying to say here, that personality can be contagious. We've also found out that, the next leader will apply the same method. And studies have shown that leaders who emerge through oppressive predecessors or rulers, they often become a tough leader. They become a dictator. And why do they become a dictator? Because they find out that being a dictator is the only way they can protect power. And that is not it. But at the same time, it's what they have learned through the system. So we're saying today, we need a feedback, maybe on our organizational policy or on our personality as a leader. The people that we're leading, how would they not be influenced by our strong character, our dark side? And we need to overcome those dark side so that it does not spill to the rest of the people. So in the example I've made, we have seen several examples in the political landscape. Number 3 factor that you need to consider when you're open to a feedback. A feedback helps you to identify the flaws and accept responsibility. You can't be a leader and you want to run away from responsibility. You can't be a leader that you are not able to accept when it's wrong, when there is a mistake. Like I said, and I quoted the word of John Maxwell, that who said that everything rises and falls on the leadership. So sometimes you find out that when there is an impact of the leader and there is an issue, it rises and falls on the leadership. So there will be a time through feedback that a leader will be able to identify the flaws and accept responsibility. As I've mentioned earlier, if you encourage feedback, asking on and listening to others, certain consequences and disaster may be traced to your decision as a leader. Certain incidents, losses may be traced to your policy, revenue policy. So, and that's what you can. You can trace certain flaws when you get a feedback. But if you are too defensive or you brush it off, it's a sign, perhaps, of your dark side. Either you like to bully and you do not take correction or take opinions of others. You like to argue. It will show up. Because leaders don't argue failure. Leaders talk about solutions. And that is what a feedback can give you. So to overcome your dark side, you must learn to accept consequences of your decision, especially when it's unsuccessful, because everything rises and falls on the leader. So sometimes you need to accept the responsibility and take the that responsibility. So when things are unsuccessful, it may be a financial consequences when you will not lay your emotional regret on another. You simply just get your team together and say, guys, we can move forward. Yes, I can see this did not work well for us and all that. So such event of financial losses, creates, a lot of things in the organization. But once you accept it, you accept responsibility, it puts everybody at peace. It puts everybody at peace. And it also shows that leader is able to accept responsibility. So in this case, I'm saying today that leaders must maintain a positive attitude in the event of crisis, in the event of unsuccessful venture. Leaders must maintain a positive attitude. And you can only do this with listening to a good feedback or a critics. You have to. Another word from Richard Blackaby that I would like to quote tonight is that he says that when there are negative repercussions to leaders' decision, they refuse to blame others. Leaders refuse to blame others. They do not make their subordinates shoulder the weight of a negative outcome for their decision. That's what leaders do. They don't. They maintain that positive attitude. No matter what it is, sometimes we have a strong will. It's a positive trait to build business, organization. However, the unawareness of the negative impact of your strong will can do more harm. And that is what we are discussing. And you can only trace this through getting a feedback, to be open to a feedback. And this will create a positive influence on your followers. That leaders can acknowledge failure. And that doesn't take away your position. This is what feedback can give you. And I hope these few points will help you to overcome whatever the trace of a dark side that you have. Those attitudes that already is your set paradigm. But I believe that when you have seen the consequences and the impact of the attitude and of this same dark side, and listening to feedback, you are able to overcome it. You are able to work on yourself from inside out, and then listening to feedback, and this is going to help you. And lastly, tonight I want to also talk about how do we overcome the dark side. When we talk about dark side, a certain aspect of a leader whereby we have become careless about. We do not take it to be anything goes, because it's a set part of our behavior. And what studies have said about leaders who are narcissists is like they are self-absorbed. They are self-absorbed. They do not recognize other people's impact or other people's contribution. So I want to bring a point tonight that for you to overcome this attitude as a leader, I want to talk about a point whereby you need to raise the standard of recognition. Because when you raise the standard of recognition, it helps to build the morals of those working with you. You provide a good incentives, and this tends to say that you recognize the contributions of others, you recognize their performance. And that's why I'm saying you need to raise the standard of recognition of other people. Because most of the time, subconsciously for some leaders, they disregard the contribution of the junior management or the least staff within the organization, he or she. They disregard it, and it's a trait of a narcissist leader. So to overcome it, after your feedback, you can introduce the recognition and incentives. So I want to say tonight as I close that we need to raise the standard of recognition. And this is how you can overcome certain dark side of your personality. If either you are a bully or you have a dependency tendency, you need to recognize. You must start to acknowledge the contributions of other individuals in your organization. You raise the standard of recognition of their performance from the junior level to the least level and to the senior level. And this is how you can create an atmosphere of inclusion. Because when there's an atmosphere of inclusion, recognition of other people, there will be a sense of belonging by everyone or the followers. And this is a way for you to have an amicable environment, a decent environment, a peaceful environment, and I believe growth will surely come. And people will start having a sense of belonging. And this is as much that I want to talk about tonight on how you overcome any dark side of your personality. You take a feedback, and there are three factors you must consider when you want to receive a feedback. You must be vulnerable. You must be vulnerable to a feedback. You must be able to be ready to hear and at the same time to express what you've got to express. You must also, you mustn't be defensive. You mustn't be defensive, because if you are too defensive, you will not hear the truth and you will not encourage a creative discussion or a true critique of events or program. Lastly, I said that you must also, when you are open, you will be able to identify the flaws of your character, and you will be able to take responsibility. So be ready to take responsibility rather. So those are the three areas that I talk about tonight. And I also put in that overcoming those attitudes, you must also be able to raise the standard of recognition, to recognize other people within the organization who are making contribution. And that is how you can create a very good environment. So I want to thank you as I finish on this aspect, and I want to wish you well. For the rest of the month of September is going to be a great month of harvest. Certain business ideas are going to come to manifestation. That has been what we desire for this month. So thank you so much for listening to me. And if you hear me for the first time, my name is Abi Adenigba. I'm the director of Shekinah Institute right here in Johannesburg. And I also pastor Shekinah Fellowship Ministry. Shekinah Institute is our training arm for leadership and entrepreneurship. So we're going to meet in the future, and I hope you'll be part of our programs. And I wish to hear your testimony and your feedback as well on this topic. Maybe you've got some experiences and how you overcome your dark side. Please feel free to send me messages, and I will want to be in touch with you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the future. God bless you. For God works all things for the good of them that love him, for the good of them who are called according to his purpose.
Our address, physical in Johannesburg. My number is +27 82 456 9264. We shall surely be blessed. May God bless you, and I look forward to receiving you. Amen.